Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I'm doing the actual review of this pen. This is the Gravitas Monster. So I did a first impressions video about this pen and since then I've been using it for the last sort of few more weeks and I've developed some thoughts and some ideas and I wanted to sort of talk through it in a bit more detail. So in that opening video or the impressions video, I showed the packaging. It comes in this very cool sort of like semi-hard case, zip around with nice little slot for the pen in there and all that kind of stuff. It's nice and plush and it's very luxurious. It's nice to see pens coming in cases that are usable in other ways as well. Now, when we talk about this pen, we talk about Gravitas is an Irish-based company. They've been around, for a handful of years now, and they've gone from strength to strength. And since being, the business side of it as opposed to the design and development side, the business side being taken over by Emmy at Pen Venture, this company has once again just leapt forward in massive leaps and bounds. And this pen is like the first big step in that, in my opinion. They've done different versions of their pens with different materials and all those kinds of things. But this one is interesting. This has got the new Kraken filling system. And it is the filling system and the ink capacity to which the name the Monster refers. Because while it's not a small pen, it's not like a massively oversized pen, but it does have a huge ink capacity with this version of a vac filling system that is about 7 milliliters when you get it full. Now, I did a first fill and I got about 4 milliliters, and then I did I sort of pushed all the air out and got a second fill, and I did it a third time and I got it pretty full, and now I've been writing with it and we've got it sort of down a little bit here. This is my second fill of it. The first one was Cross Violet. Now I've got Kensington Blue from Diamine in here. It's a really, really great pen. So let's talk about all those parts and features, and then I'll do a writing sample, size comparisons and pros and cons and all of that kind of stuff. So top of the pen is flat with the Gravitas logo in it. The cap then swells and then dips slightly back down to a gentle sort of step down onto the barrel. So that's a anodized aluminium, and we go onto a acrylic body here, and that sort of gently tapers to this knob on the end. After this steel ring here, this is the piston knob or the vac knob. I won't operate the pen, but the filling system is super interesting. So one thing that Ben Walsh, who designs the pens for Gravitas pens, is the brains behind the company. One thing he does is intense amounts of research into development and sort of taking ideas from other industries and putting it into pens. So what he's done here is the filling system is actually inspired by mechanical heart valves. So while it is technically a vac filler, so I'll just go over some of those details. Basically, you unscrew the knob, you pull the rod out, and that rod that's in there comes out, and there's a little gaskety thing on the end there. So you pull it up, and as you push it down, it creates a negative pressure behind the valve. And so once the valve gets to a point where it releases further down in the pen here, that vacuum is released and it sucks ink up into the pen. It's very cool. It's a standard vac filler in that way, like the Pilot Custom 823 or the Asvine V126 if you want a budget version. But what is interesting is that there's a second little aspect to that valve that allows the once the piston goes down, the valve pops up, and that allows for the increased pressure and suck up, if you will, of the ink. It also allows for when you unscrew the end here, you won't be able to see it necessarily, but you can see just in there that valve opens up just enough so that ink can then flow down into the section and feed and saturate the writing experience. So the valve does need to be a little bit open to write, or to write wet and consistently, and then you can sort of close that off. And what that does is it closes off the ink chamber, and you can sort of drain it just a little bit so that you get as much ink out of there as you can by tilting it up, and you close that off, and that seals all this ink into the chamber nice and tight, so that if you're flying with the pen or going into different altitudes or heats and things like that, you're going to minimize the risk of burping and ink sort of spurting out of the pen. I am not an engineer. I don't know the intricacies of this mechanism, but Emmy at Pen Venture made a great video about it, which I'll link to in the video description here. Talks about it in a lot more detail, and there's a whole lot of information on the Pen Venture YouTube channel about this pen, and it's really, really phenomenal. So that's the filling system. As I said, about 7 milliliters of ink. It is a twist cap pen, and it comes off in less than 1 turn. And then the transition from the barrel to the threads is nice and smooth, and then we get a nice generous size section, and this is micro grooved. I might be able to pick them up ever so slightly on the camera there, but I don't feel them to be super, you can hear it, but you don't feel it's, you know, particularly like aggressively under your fingers. And then it's got a number 8 size steel nib branded with Gravitas, and this is a broad, and then an ebonite feed. So there's a lot going for this pen. There's a lot in the design. The pen does sort of technically post, but it is a big pen. I don't necessarily need to post this. It's a very comfortable pen in the hand when it is when it's unposted. Nice size, number 9 size, number 8 size nib, ebonite feed, huge ink capacity. So if you open up that valve just a little bit to release the little gasket on the end there, you get a really beautiful wet writing experience with this beautifully designed and engineered pen. It's got all the trademarks of Gravitas. It's a slightly different design. We're used to more like peaked finials and things on Gravitas pens, but it's still got that Gravitas flair, which I really enjoy. As I said, it's got an anodized aluminium cap, and this is the aluminium silver version. There's also a black and a teal version. And as I said, with that number 8 size nib, that's a broad. It also comes in extra fine, medium, and the broad. So there are options around. Good colors. I assume that once this particular, not limited, but like, you know, smaller first run of these sells out, or, you know, gains momentum, they'll make perhaps other colors of this pen, maybe some Ultim and things like that. Who knows? But there's a lot going for this pen, and I think it's exciting. Okay, size comparison here. Lamy Safari, Gravitas Monster, Gravitas Vac filler. This is their original vac filler, which I can show you sort of the basic of the mechanism here, if you will. Same, you know, concept, different way it employs. So you pull the rod back, you push that down, and then once it gets past this point, it releases and sucks ink up into the pen. Very, you know, it's a tried and true method, but as I said, what Ben has done here is he's developed that and taken it a step further, and you know, just for a huge ink capacity and scalable as well, which is exciting. So yeah, Gravitas Vac there, and then the 5040 Titan. So you can see it is a big pen, because none of these are particularly small pens, but it's not like abnormally large. When they're unposted, you do really notice just how girthy the Monster is. That's obviously, that girth adds to the ink capacity as well. But, you know, it's a decent sort of length. It's a good length pen, especially in comparison to these others here. And then posted, it's definitely longer than all of them. You can see it's got certain sort of design elements in similarity with the 5040 Titan here. Different filling system, different materials, but, you know, the same number 8 size nib, flat ends, and, you know, sort of an interesting filling system. Okay, so let's talk the specific dimensions of the Gravitas Monster. It is 147 millimeters when it is capped, so good size. It's 143 when it's uncapped, and it's 181 when it's posted. So as I said, I don't feel the need to post this. If you like to post your pens, you absolutely can, and the balance is still perfectly fine. But it's a long pen in that format. Around the middle of the section is about 12 millimeters to about 14 millimeters, and it's about 18 around the widest point of the cap. The entire pen weighs 43 grams uninked, 14 in the cap, 29 in the body. So it's about a third of the weight on the back there. And once you've got it inked, also the balance is a little more sturdy, sort of in your hand. Let's do a writing sample now with the Gravitas Monster with a number 8 steel broad nib. It is very broad. Like, it's nice and it's nice and wet as well, but it's definitely a broad. The ink I have in this today is Diamine, as I said, Kensington Blue. Because I had the valve open, the feed and everything is completely saturated now, so we are getting a lovely wet writing experience. Let's do some writing. It is super, super smooth, and it's insanely reliable. That was me lifting it off the page, but there's no issues here with skipping. Oh, not sure what that was. No issue here with skipping or hard starts, or I've never had ink starvation issues as long as I remember to open that valve occasionally. It writes really, really well. Reverse writing, not so good. Flex, you can squeeze a little bit of line variation, no pressure versus pressure, but you are laying down a hell of a lot of ink there. Like, it's a wet pen to start with, and if you really push it, you can get insane amount of ink coming out of this pen. I love writing with this. I adore the feel of it in my hand. I like the weight of it. I like the size of it. It's probably one of my favorite pens with the number 8 size nib. Like this and that 5040 Titan, both amazing pens in the hand with that size nib. It feels right on this pen. Like some pens with the number 8 size nib, it feels like the nib is just a bit sort of too big. And that's probably one of my criticisms of like the Piston Carbon Black from Gravitas, is that for me, proportionally, that nib feels a bit big, but on this pen, this feels absolutely right. It does take a little, for me personally, it does take a little bit of sort of getting used to write with a nib of that size, to be that far away from the page as you're writing. But the actual on the page writing experience of this pen is absolutely phenomenal. I think Ben and Emmy over there at Penventure and Gravitas have done superb things with this pen. So what does the Gravitas Monster actually cost? Well, on the Penventure website, it's €285, 335 US dollars, and that translates to about 508 Australian as I'm filming this. So it's not an inexpensive pen. With a steel nib, this is not an inexpensive pen, but you're getting a lot of pen for the money. Huge ink capacity, amazing filling system, the engineering, the development, the prototyping, everything that has gone into this pen is there. You see it all. You see the care and the quality of workmanship that has gone into this pen. Sure, the pens are, manufactured elsewhere, and they're, like the nibs are coming from different places, but the engineering and the design, that is where this pen excels. And at that price point, you're getting a pen that is going to write reliably, beautifully, and have an amazing build quality. Okay, so what are my pros and cons? I'm going to start with the cons. First thing, and I covered some of this in my first impressions as well. This section, it does take a little bit of getting used to. It is on the not slippery side, but it's not, those micro grooves don't add a whole lot of texture. So if your hands are getting slippery, like sweaty or whatever, I feel my fingers moving around on this section. And I think also the size of the pen, the fact that it's got quite a lot of girth to it and a decent weight in the hand, sort of make it feel like it's moving a little bit as well. I think, you do feel like you need to hold it just a little bit more. I think something that's going to be a deal breaker for people with this pen is the fact that there's no clip or no roll stop. This is a pen that, needs to go in cases and things like that. And without that, it's hard to see it as an everyday sort of use pen. It's very easy to stand the cap up while you're writing, or you can post it. It's not going to go anywhere. But there's no clip or roll stop to sort of stop it from moving around, and it's a little impractical in that way. The only other issue I have with this pen is when I cleaned it. So I can't take it apart right now, but obviously, you clean it and you're flushing it through, but you can take the section off to clean it out properly. But just under the threads there's a point, I don't know if it's the point where the acrylic and the aluminium are meeting up, but it's really hard to clean the ink out of there. I actually had to clean it, I took a little brush and clean it out when I sort of opened up the pen. But what are the pros? Because there are a lot of pros with this pen. Firstly, obviously, the great ink capacity. 7 milliliters of ink, even with a gusher heavy broad like this is going to take some writing, and I love that. I do like to change my inks quite a lot, and I use cartridge converter pens a lot for that. But for something like this, where you are going to use it for a long time, you're going to, maybe this is your journaling pen or this is your work pen or whatever, having a huge ink capacity like this means you're rarely going to run out, which is fantastic. Another thing I loved was the packaging, of course, this Gravitas branded little case. You can also take this little section out there, and if you wanted to use that as a pen case for other things, it's nice, it's luxurious, it's plush, it protects the pen, and yet it's usable in other ways, which is great. Okay, other things I love. The threads here, like there's a Delrin cap liner in there, and that does two things. Firstly, it helps seal the pen. Delrin is a great industrial plastic that helps. It's robust, so that when you've got these aluminium threads here or metal threads, you're not going to be chewing up those Delrin threads because it can handle it. But also, it makes a very smooth capping experience. It also means that when you post it, you're not posting metal on metal, which is great. So Delrin liner. Huge fan. They've been doing that on a number of their pens now. I absolutely love it. I think the build quality is robust and sturdy, and the tolerances are all absolutely amazing. Like the feel from that barrel down onto that metal ring there, down through that stainless steel ring and onto the piston knob. It's so smooth. Like every tolerance is just beautifully done, down to the bevel on the the edge of the section there. Just very, very nice indeed. I think it's got a really smooth, really wet nib. I think that's fantastic. It writes so well, especially once you've got the valve open. It's just a gusher. If you look back on the first impressions video, you saw that it was writing dry, and then I opened up the valve, and you just see how quickly and easily that pen just turned into a beautiful wet writer. It's really great. But the star of this pen is that filling system, not the ink capacity, but the filling system. This is engineering work. This is stuff that Ben has spent years developing, and he spent years honing every tiny detail. And the fact that it allows a huge ink capacity, the easy filling, relatively easy cleaning, and then also the ability to lock it down for travel. I travel quite a lot for work, and I actually took this pen to Japan with me, and had no issues on the flights. I had no issues anywhere. It was a gift. It was a dream. So I absolutely love this pen. It's not going to be for everyone. The price, is on the higher side, especially for a steel nib pen and not having a clip and all those kinds of things. But if this is the kind of pen for you, this is definitely one to look out for. So a big thank you to Emmy and Ben over there at Gravitas Pens and Pen Venture for sending this out to me for review. I'm really glad to have been able to share it with you. Please, check out their websites and stuff in the video description here. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, hit the notifications button, all that kind of stuff. If you've got products you think I should be looking at, or if there's a way you would like to support my channel, I would really love to hear from you. It's your support that makes these videos possible, and helps companies keep wanting to have me show their products to you. So a big thank you to you too. So enjoy your pens, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.